Hi, I'm Jim Eves, and you're listening to the Honest Filmmaker podcast, career advice from people in the business. Today, I'm joined by writer-director Graham Hughes. Graham's directed 4 feature films and joins us fresh from his latest film, Hostile Dimensions, premiere screening at this year's Fright Film Festival, as well as screening at a number of high-profile genre festivals since. We talked about film festivals, getting into them. We talked about talent labs and how they worked, and some of the things to look out for when working with a sales agent. Enjoy. You've had, in the time I've known you and before that, you've had some success with like awards, and what was the one I've got here? BAFTA New Talent Awards and film festivals and stuff like that. What's been your sort of finest moment so far, would you say?
Well, that BAFTA New Talent Award, that was similar to like graduating from uni, coming out of uni, be like, well, I'm off to be a director now, and then getting my hopes like severely dashed. The next time that happened was when we won, myself and my co-writers at the time, won the BAFTA New Talent Award for writing on that £200 first feature. And I remember being so naive that I was like, right, we've won this award. I'll just, put my feet up and wait for the phone to ring. Which made sense at the time, because it's like, right, well, this is like an entry level award for writing. Surely, if you're a talent scout or something, you're going to be looking for those kind of things. But yeah, how naive I was. So like, of all the festivals and all of the things that I've done, I think by far the most impactful has been Fright Fest in
Oh,
2019.
really? That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, like, because I've done festivals prior to that, and I'd always struggled to find an audience. Even I think Edinburgh might be like the highest profile festival that I've had a film in, and even there it was like we sold out like 2 of the 3 screenings, so we had like about at least 600 people saw it over the course of the weekend and or the festival or whatever. But after that, there was just like nothing. We got maybe like 2 reviews. There was just, and that was kind of the end of it. And I'm not saying like festivals need to do X in order to be valuable. It was still like a really valuable experience for me. But Fright Fest was just completely different. The amount of press that they had, that engaged and like watched all the screeners and wrote about the film, and then the audiences as well were really vocal. And I don't know if that's a difference between the festivals or between the films, but yeah, there's no way to control for that, I guess. All I can say is that Fright Fest just really kind of got my name out there and the film out there in a way that I hadn't really experienced with any other kind of like talent lab or like award or anything like that.
And you've done pretty well at festivals with both those 2 films. Apart from having a good film, which I'm not seeing the new one, I'm sure it is, love Death of a Vlogger. Apart from having a good film, are there any tips to getting into festivals, do you think? Or is it literally a good film, you get in? Or how strategic are you with who you apply to?
So I'm in a unique position, maybe not unique. I'm in a privileged position now that so Hostile Dimensions, from the get-go, had a sales agency attached, Bluefinch, and that's been night and day for the festival experience, because I have nothing to do with
Oh,
it.
really? That's interesting. Yeah.
I'm allowed to, have conversations with them, and just if there's any festivals that I have my eye on, then like I can sort of gently persuade them to apply. So for instance, I'm not sure if they were going to send it to Edinburgh, but it's not an Edinburgh film. And also this year they ran at a reduced capacity, because I don't know if you've seen all of the bankruptcy stuff.
Yeah.
But I just sort of said to the team, like, I've got priors with Edinburgh. I think we should just get it in front of them.
Yeah.
Like, they'll knock it back, but can you at least get like pass it their way? But beyond that, they're totally in charge of who they're submitting to, who they're talking to, and they've got the whole strategy down. And I'm just kind of like happy to let them do their thing. Um, and they already have like all the connections and relationships with all of the festivals that they deem are important. So that's the answer to getting into film festivals, is like knowing someone that knows. Because it's interesting it's interesting that you think that Death of a Vlogger did well in the festival circuit, because I think we maxed out at about 4.
Oh, really? Yeah, but they seem to, unless I'm remembering it wrong, they seem to be pretty good festivals.
They were pretty, like, yeah, there was I'll tell you exactly off the top of my head. It was Fright Fest London, Fright Fest Glasgow, CineQuest, and Terra Mullins.
Yeah. So when you look at, and I've been through the Mill festivals, but when you look at the list, there's a lot of festivals you could get into. And the whole, is it even worth getting into festivals debate's an interesting one.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of festivals you can get into, but it's just meaningless. Whereas there are certain festivals like the Fright Fests, like the one, is it Motel X? Is that the one you've just got?
Yeah.
Ones like that people have heard of, that have got good exposure. That's probably why when I look at Death of a Vlogger, I'm like, oh, that did well because it was in ones I'd heard of. But it's awesome that you're in that position and you're not having to deal with all the ball ache, and I'm assuming, and the expense of submitting.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the within our contract, and this is just useful stuff to know. I'm sure you've seen contracts like this as well. It's like standards, sales agency agreement or something like that, SAA. There's a market cap.
So you've got your agreement, and it says in there's marketing and sales fees that come out of the first money you earn once you sell your film.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming at the moment no territories have been sold yet. They're trying to build the momentum, are they? Or
yeah. So they've been talking with various territories, buyers, and all that. And I think the next couple of months will be crucial. Just as I said, we've got other festivals that have programmed us but aren't announced yet, and just building all that momentum, I guess. But again, it's very like I'm kind of hands off on this one, which I'm really glad for. Because, as you know yourself, there's like a million jobs in making a film, and very few of them are actually directing.
Fun. Very few of them are fun.
Are fun. But I think to go back a bit as well. So my experience with my 3 films before Hostile Dimensions, I did all the festival stuff myself, and encountered exactly what you're talking about. It's just all of these very predatory sham festivals, essentially. And I think people just need to make sure they're doing their research and not just like on Film Freeway and like, oh, this one's only a $5, right? Why not? And just being smart. I think with Death of a Vlogger, I ultimately could afford to submit to 40 film festivals. So we had a 10% success rate, which I think is actually pretty good. But I think the other thing as well, I genuinely believe that Death of a Vlogger is a better film than Hostile Dimensions. And
really?
I think so, yeah. And I mean, they're both great, they're both amazing. But I think that just shows how much the game is rigged, in that Hostile Dimensions is doing much better on the festival circuit compared to Death of a Vlogger, because like Vlogger was all cold submissions. And any festival will tell you there are outliers, obviously, but so for instance, the year that we got into Edinburgh was an absolute miracle, because they told us that they programmed 3 films from 2,000 submissions, and then the rest of the program, probably about 70 films or thereabouts, were all through things that the programmers had seen at other festivals, or relationships that they already had with sales agents and filmmakers, and certain remits that have to be ticked, or purely just the taste of the programmers seeking out films that they know are coming. So it's a shit position to be in, but that's like that's going to be the reality for most like first time filmmakers.
Yeah. So the advice there is be careful. Don't enter any old crap.
Yeah.
Do your research. If you can get a sales agent to do it for you, fabulous.
Even better, yeah.
Yeah, even better. And I guess when I think back to festival stuff, I do wonder, for myself anyway, the sales that we have made on films, if it's even made a difference. And maybe that's
Yeah.
because I've not done the big Fright Fest one yet. I've not. We've had a couple on previous films, but yeah, I just wonder. I guess you've really got to think that strategy through and think, is it going to be worth? Because it's soon add up. I mean, if you said 40 festivals you entered, I mean, how much are we talking? That's
Yeah, totally.
thousands, isn't it?
I think because I was very careful with it, some European ones you can get for free as well. Like if you get them at the right time, their early bird will actually be free. Yeah, I think in the end I probably spent about £400-500 on.
Yeah.
So across 40 submissions, I actually managed to keep the cost right down low. There's some that just totally took mad chunks out of the budget, like certain film festivals. Like, I'm trying to think what, because I don't think I even sent it by like South by Southwest or Slam Dance. I was very kind of pragmatic and what, like, you've made a film, you might not ever make another one. You should probably just whack it into South by just in the off chance. But I didn't, because I was like, I can't really justify that 70 quid on one submission. That, like, the odds of success for that are like what, 2%, maybe less.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Like I've said this the other day to somebody, but we submitted our very, very first feature to the Cannes Film Festival. That's how naive we were. So we thought, oh, this film with like plastic monsters and set in a mental hospital, Cannes gonna love that. They're gonna eat that up. They'll, and you're picturing yourself on the red carpet.
Yeah.
And the other one that I've got to say that I always hear this with filmmakers, this drives me nuts, is one is trying to finish your film for a festival. Is going, I've got to get the film finished. Fright Fest deadlines next week. Got to get the film finished. And the other one is Fright Fest deadlines next week. I'll just send them a version of it. I'll send it. Do you know what I mean? It's not finished. I'll send it as it is, just so they can see it. Yeah. I would say never do that. Never send something that's not finished, because they won't view it as something that's not finished.
Yeah.
And never give yourself a film festival deadline, because you're only going to be disappointed, because chances are the one that you really, really want, you won't get.
Yeah. I agree with both of those. We did actually end up sending out Hostile Dimensions in an early cut, but I think that was more because I was in bed with the sales agents. We're kind of working to a schedule together.
Yeah.
But that, with the big caveat that because they have relationships with the festivals, they know how to phrase a work in progress letter.
Yeah, and they can assure them. Yeah, they've got
exactly
that it's gonna.
Yeah, so even just having that mark of like so-called legitimacy, I think is enough to just, or like, I trust their judgment. If they're used to doing this and they're used to looking at those kind of cuts, fine. But I'm in a similar mindset of you. Like, get it to them. They're only going to watch it once. They will never, they won't watch a later cut.
They won't go, oh well, the sound's not finished. Maybe that'll change it. I'll watch it when they send the new one. It's like sending someone a script that's not finished. It's a big mistake.
Yeah, totally.
So we met on the Edinburgh International Film Festival Talent Lab, which I'm guessing doesn't exist anymore. Now they've had financial troubles. If the Talent Lab's part of it, that's coming back.
Yeah, good question. I think they'll bring it back, because I mean the festival's coming back, like, as big as ever, as far as I know.
Oh really? Oh, that's good news.
I think so. Yeah. So like this year, it was reduced capacity. Well, it was like a changing of the guard. And I think the plan is next year it's going to go back to, well, a version of its former self.
And have you done, so is Edinburgh the only talent lab you've done? Have you done other ones?
I did the Reykjavik Film Festival Talent Lab.
And
Um,
so for people who don't know what a talent lab is, what is a talent lab and how do you apply to them?
so various film festivals and film like bodies, I guess, run talent labs, which are basically an excuse to get a bunch of filmmakers at a roughly similar stage in their career, usually early stage, together for a big piss up. And also some like lectures and networking and workshops and things like that.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good description. Yeah, because I think it was a miracle I got on that Edinburgh one because of my genre background. I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
things have changed, but I do feel like I was a bit of a kind of strange anomaly in that lineup, especially when you network with other people and everyone else has got these kind of um, earnest projects that they really believe
Yeah.
in, a real like social economic commentary, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, my one's about a time traveling man or whatever, you can kill people or something.
Yeah.
So I think it was a bit of a miracle, but I've got to say, for students, if they've got a feature under their belt that's done well, I think talent labs are brilliant. I think they're a good way to meet people,
Yeah.
in a similar situation to yourself. And those lectures and those piss ups are, a really, really big opportunity. And a lot of students don't even know those things exist. So I'd
Yeah.
say,
Well, I wouldn't be here right now. Literally right here if it wasn't for the Edinburgh Film Festival Talent Lab, because
well, and you wouldn't have one of the greatest cameos in movie history in Death of a
exactly.
Vlogger, would you? What would you fucking do? Let's just leave it at that.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, and I should say, Death of a Vlogger. I was doing research today. 4 stars in total film. Where can people actually watch that now?
Oh, I have no clue.
No clue. Okay,
let's
link is
let's
in the description.
let's Google.
I think Amazon is what I'm going to say.
I think it's on like some like plugin on Amazon. Uh Watch with Channel 101. Start your 7-day free trial now.
Oh, okay.
So there you go.
A little advert in there. Okay, I
Just
will.
sign up to that. Make
Yeah,
sure you tick the box that says do not auto renew, and you're good to go.
good to go. You can watch it. Can you? And I'm assuming you can repeat watch it over those 7 days, as many times as you want to.
Yeah, because you're going to want to watch it every day
Yeah.
for each of those 7 days, at
Um,
least once a day.
at least once a day. So then, and again, haven't seen Hostile Dimensions, but the vibe I'm getting from the trailer is found footage style action cameras, real life stuff, horror slash sci-fi. Death of the Vlogger, similar sort of vibe. Why? What's made you go down that route? That kind of like realistic kind of webcams, GoPros, all that kind of stuff.
So there's like two kind of reasons. One was like pragmatic, and one was artistic. So the basically I had tried to get a third feature off the ground after Practical Guide. I'd scraped together like 10 grand for it, and yeah, like I just put everything into it for like 2 years basically, like another feature film, a horror that was contained. And it was one of the worst experiences of my life. It it all fell apart literally about 2 weeks before the shoot. Um, and it was kind of potentially salvageable, but I was so exhausted at that point. I had to just like pull the whole plug on the thing, and um, yeah, that was a fucking disaster. And I think the big issue for that for me was I think if I'd had one of three elements, it might have worked. And the three things that were kind of missing was I had a full-time job, so I didn't have the time to kind of do everything I needed to do. I didn't have a dedicated producer, so I was wearing both of those hats, as well as like the other dozen. Um, and the third thing was it we only had 10 grand, so we didn't have money for things. I didn't have time for things, and I didn't have help for things. and the combination of all that just like I took on too much and couldn't get it made. So that was like the third time that I'd given up filmmaking at that point. So gave up filmmaking for a while, and then watched a film called The Dirties, which is a found footage kind of comedy drama about a school shooting. And it totally like opened up my eyes to the potential for found footage, because this was still kind of, in my opinion, still in the sort of lull of found footage where a bunch of really good stuff came out and then everyone just tried to like copy the good stuff. Everyone realized that this was like a money spinner because you can make it for dirt cheap, um and yeah, just like pump the market, and like there was so much absolute shite out there, and a lot of the good stuff didn't manage to rise to the top, and like found footage just became this dirty word. And like watching The Dirties, um it so not a horror for a start. um it was just a guy who was like, well, this is what I have and I'm going to make this my aesthetic. um Rather than what I was doing with the film that fell apart, which was I'm trying to make a 10 grand film look like a like £500,000 film, and just stretching everything to try and make that work. Whereas this guy was like, I've got 10 grand. It looks like it cost 10 grand, but the filmmaking is really clever. The performances are all great, and the writing is brilliant. So it's like all the things that, well, I guess you could say performances can be impacted by the budget. But those three things generally like are not impacted by budget if you've got the time and the space to like, you know, sit down and write, then you can make something that's a really quality piece of work but doesn't have to look like, you know, the big boys, so to speak. And then from then I was like, okay, maybe I can make like a found footage film. And I started watching like all like basically retracing the last 10 years and finding out where the good ones were, and just seeing like this absolute wealth of amazing films. And I was like, okay, I just became like a mad found footage junkie at that point. So that was the two reasons that led to Death of a Vlogger. It was like pragmatic, and then just realizing that like how much can actually be done artistically with it.
Yeah, and I imagine, again, from the trailer, I can see you've used low-tech solutions and camera trickery and a bit like Death of a Vlogger to make things appear, to get those shock value and to kind of get the action across. So it makes perfect sense. So you obviously, are you in the new one?
Yes.
Are you the star of the new one?
I am not the star.
You're not the star. Okay.
No.
So you're obviously Death of the Vlogger. You're right up front central. Was that a decision again? Was that budget related? Was that I want to do this, or what? And at what point did you get over? Because there must have been a bit where you were like, oh, is this me putting me in it? Is that going to work? How did you get over it? And what point did you make that decision?
Yeah, totally. Because all the acting I'd done up to that point was, well, the first feature that I made, just because it was like me and all my pals, none of us were actors. And then I'd made like loads of sketches as well for like the BBC ran this initiative called The Social. I don't know if it's still going, but there was like little bits of money for Scottish filmmakers or like, well, Scottish artists of any kind of media, to just like shoot stuff, and they would like broadcast it on their page and that. So like I'd done quite a lot of sketches, just starring in them myself as well, because it was only like £100 commission, so not enough to pay anyone to to do the bits. And it was through that basically, when it came to Death of a Vlogger, it's like, I can use all of this like vlogging experience I've got and like making these little skits and things. Like I felt quite comfortable in front of the camera. Still don't consider myself an actor, but just comfortable enough that if I write it in a certain way, I can be convincing as a version of myself. And also just it gave me the freedom for the shoot. So even after like uh tentatively going, okay, I'll maybe make another film, and kind of started writing it, and I was still like not sure if it would work or not. Um, so the film was shot like over about 6 months, I think, and it would just be, still holding down a full-time job. So it'd just be like walking home from work, being like, have I got, have I got energy? Like, okay, I'll do a scene tonight, and like it's set in my flat as well, so I could just sit down and shot on my phone. It's literally just like sit down with the phone and like shoot a pretty simple scene and then get it in the computer and see how it's looking. And I just sort of edited as I went as well. So it was all kind of like a piecemeal sort of iterative like um sort of process. And I didn't fully commit to it, I think, until about 3 months in, when I had maybe about 40 minutes shot and roughly edited. And I was like, no, okay, this is a thing. This is actually a thing now. And it was like from that point, I was like, okay, now I'm actually making a film. But the whole first half of the shoot was just sort of like all the actors that I'd kind of roped in for like the odds Saturday or Sunday shoot, just a couple hours at a time. All of them, I was like, look, just so you know, I may bin this. Like, I might chuck this in the
Inspiring.
bin.
That is inspiring.
Yeah. um, yeah, I was full of confidence, clearly.
I may bin this. I'm going to ask you for your motto later. Maybe that's going to be your
My
motto. I may
motto,
bin
oh
this.
man.
So, and how do you know when you're the lead? How do you know what you're doing is good? Is it like, oh, I can just feel it in my bones that that was a good take, or is there somebody sanity checking that for you?
Um, to date, just feeling it myself.
Yeah.
I will ask if there's other cast around
Mm.
what they thought, but I think that's like maybe that's undue pressure as well when they've got their own shit to deal with.
Yeah, and they're probably
Um,
thinking, if I say he's crap, he's going to bin the whole project. He's already threatened.
I might bin this. Yeah, yeah. Annabelle's always really supportive. So Annabelle, I've made 3 films with now,
Yeah.
and she's a brilliant actor and is always very supportive whenever I'm acting with her, or if she's around. She's like always um got really good advice, and she's actually directed me a few times as well, which has been really useful, particularly on Death of a Vlogger, and gave me some good tips. But yeah, it's as soon as I can afford not to, I'll not act in my
Right.
films.
And you went to Cannes this year?
Yes,
That's right. Yes. Was that your first Cannes or not?
it
Been,
was.
it
Yeah,
was. And what do you make of it? What do you think?
it was interesting. You've been, right?
Oh, I'm a veteran. Yeah, I've been for a
Yeah,
while, but I love it.
yeah.
Like used to go every single year. Had children, and we've kind of eased off of that. Although they're getting big now, soon they'll be able to fend for themselves, so we can go
Ah.
back and get drunk. But what was your experience like?
Yeah, it was really interesting. I had a great time. But it's a weird place. Um, pretty depressing in a lot of ways. More depressing than inspiring, I would
Oh,
say.
really? Why is that?
I think we just realize how much stuff is out there.
Mm.
Like, so yeah, for any listeners that don't know, the there is an actual market, like a literal. It's not like I thought the Marché de film was like a sort of metaphor, or like people will come in. It's a market of ideas, but no, there's literally stalls with people like going, "Film for sale, come get your hot films here." I was
Yes.
so like, what? Okay. I mean, it makes sense when you think about it. Like, people need a place to hold meetings and that, but it's just funny to actually see the market. And I think it was just the sheer volume of companies that I had never heard of, and films that I'd never heard of, that um, yeah, depressed me a little bit. Um, Especially because like I feel like I've got my finger on the pulse with horror
Mm.
films, so like kind of being at the market and just being like, oh shit, there's so much out like this year that yeah, just
But
it's
then
overwhelming.
it is. But then I guess one thing you've got to bear in mind with that market is, like you said, found footage does well, and then there's a million found footage films.
Yeah,
The marché, sometimes it reflects trends that have come from bigger budget films 5 years earlier, and
yeah,
there'll be a
yeah,
certain type of horror that will just be everywhere,
yeah.
and it'll all be trash.
Mm.
So it's kind of bearing that in mind. But I know what you mean. Although I love going around and taking pictures of some of the posters are just like Pandasaurus was one I saw. All the
Sorry.
it's like a killer panda dinosaur thing. I love all that stuff, and it sometimes feels like the Eric Roberts Film Festival. He seems to be in every action film going.
Oh.
Um, so, what lessons have you learned from your previous film, and maybe going into this one as far as distribution goes?
Be very careful who you get into bed with. Um, talk to your friends. Talk to friends of friends. I think go to film festivals and see if you can meet people there that know more than you. So the sales agents that I got for Death of a Vlogger, I am not happy with at all. And I'd asked someone I met at Edinburgh, who works in sales. I was like, basically, only really had one offer, and I was like, I've got this offer from these people. What do you think? And he was like, they're a bit sharky, but okay. And I later relayed this quote to like a friend after um after I'd signed with them, and I was like, so he said they were okay. And my friend was like, that's not the word that stood out to me. um so yeah, I think time will tell with sales agents I'm with just now, but I've got nothing but good things to say about them so far. They're a lovely bunch of people and have been taking good care of me and the
Yeah.
film. But yeah, I think in general, most sales agents aren't out for you or the filmmaker. And I guess the biggest actionable piece of advice I would say is always push for an MG, which is, as you know, a minimum guarantee, basically the exact same as an advance that an author would get for a book. Um, you can never really tell what your sales agents are doing, like how much money they're actually getting, what they're spending on expenses and things like that. They intentionally obfuscate the data, and also, at least from my experience, withhold payments and make it very difficult to even get a reply from them. So just get as much money as you can up front and don't expect anything beyond that.
Yeah. Okay. Wise words. Wise words.
What's your experience with like sales agents and that?
Varied. I'd love to tell you a good anecdote, but I can't. And I think it's a tough one because I'm so me and
You
Laura are
can't tell the anecdote because it's like, you know,
no,
oh
it
no,
doesn't exist. It doesn't
oh
exist.
right,
The good anecdote. I have met honest ones and worked with them, but they are far and few between. I think my problem is so this is where me and Laura's yin and yang works so well. Is I'm very sort of overly trusting, and when we did the last film, we sent the film out to hundreds of people.
the last one
So you
is
might get lost. Send that
okay,
to loads
right.
of people. And one would come back and they'd go, "We love your film." Italian company. I'm not going to do an Italian accent. I nearly did. They would, "We love your film. Let's chat." And I'm like, "Okay, all right." So I'll have a chat with them. Chat with the bloke. So passionate about the film. Just loved it. He knows. I'm trying to think of how I can camouflage who this person is, but it's like, oh, he knows Bernardo Bertolucci's son or whatever. Do you know what I mean? He's connected, this bloke. He
Yeah.
loves it. He's given me a plan of how to sell it. amazing, want to go with them. Then I have a conversation with Laura. What do you think of this company? I'm getting a really good vibe off of this person. I think this is the one. Laura does about 3 seconds of research, and then we contact the people this person sold to, which is another piece of advice. If you're going to go with a sales agent, speak to filmmakers who are with that sales agent.
Yeah,
and
that's
everybody
great.
we spoke to was shyster, don't touch it with a barge pole. So vibes mean nothing, and my initial, any kind of personal connection with that person, you've just got to ignore that and look at the facts. Have they worked with filmmakers who've seen money? Would those filmmakers recommend that person? Because they're the only ones who are going to give you an honest response. Because the other thing is you know, like you said, my 10% calculation I do is usually of 40 people, 2 will go to the next round.
Yeah.
And of those, if you add up all those 2 people out of that 40 people, 2 of them will make you an offer. And you know, if your film, the last film I made, was a tough sell, probably like yourself, it's a tough sell because it's kind of crosses a couple of genres, not enough blood to be a horror, science fiction, you know. So it is a tough sell. So you're really trying to be careful about who you pick as a sales agent. So yeah, it's hard not to get depressed about that kind of stuff. But you just got to focus on enjoying making the film, figuring out who the film's for when you make it. But I've not really got any good sales agent stories, unfortunately, yet.
That's a good place to be, though.
yeah, I'm hopeful. Thanks for listening. Please do make sure you subscribe so you never miss another episode of the Honest Filmmaker podcast, career advice from people in the business.